James Lupton for Pro Boxing Fans. Delighted to join today with Jon Thaxton. Jon, how you doing?
I'm good, real good. Yeah, busy as ever.
Fantastic. How's it been during lockdown? You say you're a bit busy. How's lockdown affected you?
Do you know what? I've actually loved lockdown because I'm a bit of a workaholic and all I do is work. But obviously with lockdown, I've had to slow everything down, change the way I work. I've still been getting up in the mornings. I do 6 to 7 miles every morning on the road running. And I do that 6 days a week. I have Sundays off. And I've done a lot of personal training, a lot of training online. So it's sort of changed the way I work. So I've actually enjoyed it, being home a lot more. I've enjoyed it.
So you said that you still run every morning. You're still doing your personal training, your training side of things. You're still very active and very fit. A lot of fighters come away from sport after retirement and they miss it. They need to do something. Did you ever miss it at all?
I knew it was time to get out. I knew it was time after the John Murray fight. Even before the John Murray fight, when I lost my European, that was it for me. I should have retired then. But you still think you still got it. The mind's willing, the body's not able. And that's exactly how it was with me. I fought a kid called Tom Glover over 8 rounds. And he used to be one of my sparring partners. And when they said him, I thought, yeah, no problem. Didn't have the respect I should have had for him. He was well up for it. And I just thought it's a fairly comfortable night's work. Wasn't to be. I lost the fight to an old sparring partner. Terrible. I just didn't have it with me. Then they offered me the John Murray fight for the British title. And you think you can do it until the first bell. And then after when the first bell went, I thought, what am I doing here? So yeah, people say, do I miss it? Would you miss getting punched in the face every day? No, I don't miss it. I had a great career, 17-year career, loved it. But now I'm doing other things which I enjoy as much.
Absolutely fantastic. Let's talk about, first of all, start with the Ricky Hatton fight. Obviously, first round, devastating cut for Hatton. Did you think that cut was going to be the end of the fight?
I thought I'd won the lottery. I had my victory speech worked out. Everything was, first round, I sat down, I thought, I got this. Second round, the victory speech was all sort of, say this, say that. Third round, the mortgage was paid, but it wasn't to be, people say it should have been stopped. You know what? I'm glad it wasn't stopped because people remember that fight for a 12-round war. People still, you're talking about it was 20 years ago. The fight was 20 years ago this October. And people are still talking about it. And that makes me very proud to think, I'm surprised, I'm gutted and surprised I wasn't on the top 50 boxing matches on the boxing news list. I don't know if you see that. And every week there's top 50. And I just thought maybe me and Ricky Hatton are on there, but we weren't. And I'm quite surprised. But people still come up to me. People still talk to me about it. And I'm very proud of the way I performed and conducted myself.
How good was Ricky at that point? Obviously, he's still very young at that stage. Did you expect him to go on to what he achieved?
Yeah, like I said, if they'd have stopped on a cut and they give me the same opportunities that Ricky had, I wouldn't have achieved half of what Ricky had done. He went on from strength to strength, got better as he went on, more experienced, and he was guided, managed correctly, brilliant. And then he got the Costa Zoo fight and, he peaked.
Absolutely. Before the Ricky fight, you did fight Emmanuel Augustus, a fight that you sort of came away from very disappointed.
I tell you, right, talk about management. I'm number 1 by the WBO and number 6 by the IBF. My opponent pulls out. The fight I should have had, my opponent pulls out. So they bring me Emmanuel Augustus. What kind, that fight should never have happened because that guy was fantastic. That guy should have, could have, if he was guided correctly, gone on to be a very, very good fighter and a possible world champion. That's my opinion. But he didn't have the right attitude all of the time. When he was on it, he would give anyone trouble. He'd give Mayweather trouble. you know, and for him to turn around and say, you know, Mayweather turn around and mention him in interviews and say, he gave me a lot of trouble. You know, he was a very good fighter. That's one fight I should not have took. But me being me, I'll fight anyone. That's how I was. I had gloves. We'll travel. We'll fight. That was my job.
With Augustus, you mentioned there he could have been whatever he wanted to be. It's down to management, whether it's down to his dedication. How common is that in the sport? You know, a lot of people don't sort of realise there are a lot more people out there who are on the road who could make it.
They could make it, but nowadays boxing is very different in the fact when I was about, because it's all about the ticket sales. If you haven't got promotional contract, or if you have got a promotional contract, you've still got to sell the tickets. And sometimes that's part of the game. It's more than just training. It's more than just getting up every morning doing your road work. It's about going around everyone's houses, selling tickets, getting them to watch a fight so you get paid correctly. You know, and that's how boxing's changed. Boxing's, it's a sport, but it's also it's a business as well. And if you haven't got the people watching you, you ain't going to get the fights, and you're not going to get on, and you're not going to progress.
You fought, obviously, as well, Jason Rowland, Eamonn Magee. You mentioned that Augustus was a very tough fight. Hatton, John Murray as well, you mentioned. Who gave you your toughest night and why?
Eamonn Magee. He had an answer for everything. He, you know, I was really up for that fight. Manchester Arena, really up for it, really going to go for it. And he wouldn't let me do anything. He was a very good fighter. I just finished his book. What a great book. You know, give him a big up there. Absolute brilliant book. And he only ever, and he stated in his book, he only ever trained for one fight in his whole career. And that was me. Well, whether I'll take that as a compliment or a bit of bad luck on my behalf, we'll have to see. But, you know, he said, even for the Ricky Hatton fight, they were trying to get him out of the pub all the time. You know, but with me, he stayed off the drink. He trained very hard. He kept himself away. And he performed. You know, he stopped me in about six or seven rounds, I think. And to me, he was a very, very good fighter.
If I think I'm right in thinking that Eamonn Magee was about your 7th loss in your career, what gave you the push to keep going? And, you know, it's easy to just give up and go, do you know what? I've had too many losses and I pack it in. What kept you coming back?
Yeah, that was a time when I thought I'm not going to make it now. I'm not going to make it. Let's find a new career. But then I thought, well, wait a minute. I love the game. I've always you've got to love it. You know, you've got to love the game. And it was me. I'd been boxing since I've been like 8, 9 years old. So I thought, well, what I'll do is I'll go down to lightweight. And then I made my mark at lightweight. So I had some big wins at lightweight. Then I had a car crash. I had 2 years out. That 2 years out was probably the best 2 years of my career. 2 reasons. Number one, I didn't get punched in the face for 2 years. And number two, it gave me time to reflect on the mistakes I made and how I could improve myself. One thing about me, all I want to do was train. Brendan, who I was training with at the time, turned around and said, Jono, have a day off. Yeah, no problem, Brendan. I'd go out and do a 9-10 mile run. Come back to the gym the next day. Did you have yesterday off, John? Yeah. And he knew full well I didn't. But youth is wasted on the young. And with my experience at 2 years, it gave me time to reflect on the mistakes I made, the times I didn't listen. So I thought, you know what? And I got a dead-end job, a job that I really didn't like. I was working all hours God give, so I got no qualifications. And I thought, you know what? I'm gonna make the boxing's easier than this. I'm gonna make a comeback in boxing. So I teamed up with a boxing trainer local to me in Graham Everett. Fantastic coach, fantastic trainer. And we said, right, we're going to win British, Commonwealth, European, and then goddamn, we're going to win a world title. And if we don't, we're going to have some fun. And the mistakes I made in my early career under the Ingles, I put right. And with Graham's passion as a trainer we went on to win British and European titles.
With that 2 years off, or without the 2 years off, do you think your career would have gone on as long as it did?
No, if I hadn't had the time off, I would have just did end up as a nearly man. I won the IBF and WBO Intercontinental titles, and that had been as far as I went. Because there's only so many times you can make mistakes and get away with it. And I just thought, I needed that time off. A, to recharge my batteries. B, to have a new direction. And Graham gave me that. But I always kept, because I'm a very loyal, and Brendan done so much for me, not so much in the ring, but outside the ring. With setting up business, with the business I got now, if it wasn't for Brendan, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. What he's done with Johnny Nelson, what he's done with so many boxers in his stable, nurtured them, mentored them. He's done that with me. And I'll be forever grateful to Brendan Ingle and the Ingle family. So they're always part of the team. I always had Dominic in the corner as a cuts man. John Ingle was always there as the agent or the manager. So, we're all part of the team. Just Graham was the main trainer.
What were the main differences between Brendan and Graham?
I don't know. But to be fair, there's not a lot of difference when it comes, because they're both very passionate about what they do. Obviously, they've got very different styles. But one thing about them both, they're very passionate and they care. And that's a big thing. Graham certainly cares about his fighters, about his boxers, as well as Brendan did.
Could it have been that you had changed? Obviously, that 2 years off, had you matured as a man?
Exactly. That's it. I'd learned from my mistakes. Like I said, as I said earlier, youth is wasted on the young. The experience I gained from working with Brendan Ingle, but the experience, the knowledge, I didn't use his knowledge like I should have done. Where when I made the comeback, I listened, I learned, I developed, and me and Graham were a fantastic team. Very passionate, Graham is, and all he wanted to do was take me as far as I could and be successful. And one thing about me as a fighter, I'm most probably one of the easiest fighters to train, because if you tell me to be at the gym at 6 a.m, I'll be there at 5:30, ready to start at 5:45. I'm not one of them who'll just waltz in. I was so dedicated, so passionate, so determined, so dedicated. And that made up for my lack of talent in the ring.
Let's talk about now the sort of training side of things now. How you enjoying what you think you're still working with Graham Everett in his gym? How are you enjoying that side of things?
Yeah, I tell you what, being a trainer is a hell of a lot harder than being a fighter, because you have so many heads on your shoulder. You got to talk to people differently. Some people like to be motivated differently to others. You're the first in the gym, and you're certainly the last at the gym. I work with Graham, but Graham is the head man in the gym. He says what happens and what goes about in the gym, and I'm sort of like learning from him every day.
Do you see that as your future? Do you see yourself as a head trainer going forward for a long time?
I don't know. We'll see how everything pans out, because I do a lot of different things as well. Where Graham, if you cut him in half, he's got boxing running through his veins. That is Graham. Where me, although I've been boxing all my life, more or less, I have other outlets, where other businesses, which I put my mind to. So where Graham is 100% boxing, I'm not that.
When you started the training side and aspect of it and learning from Graham, did it give you a newfound respect for Graham and Brendan when you're a fighter?
Without a doubt. I used to think I was because I got my trainer's license before I actually went with Graham as partners. So, and I thought I was a good coach. I thought I was a good boxing coach. I had a couple of fighters under me. And then we went down to Graham's for some sparring for one of the fighters I was training. We sort of like started speaking. He said, well, this is silly. You one side of the city, me the other side of the city. We should join forces, which we did. And then Graham taught me how to be a boxing coach. I'm a great conditioning guy. I'll get someone fit. That's my bag. I can do that, not a problem. Very experienced at that. Done it myself to myself, helped many, many people. But when it comes to the boxing side of it, Graham sees everything. You cannot pull the wool over his eyes. He will see little footwork. When your footwork's not right, when your hands aren't right, he will see it and put it all right and make you into the best fighter you can be.
And very finally, I just want to talk about the boxing in Norwich down your end. Walsh Brothers, I believe Fabian Wardley's down there. Just how good is the buzz down there and in the gym with the fighters?
Norwich is, as me and Herbie sort of found out, we were always fighting away. But then when Herbie had some big shows in Norwich, then I had some big shows in Norwich, winning the European title here. I think in time, we'll get Norwich back kicking and buzzing like it did in the 90s. We've got some good fighters coming through in Joe Steed. Obviously, the Walsh brothers are there. You know, they're hitting the mark. And I think Ryan Walsh having an Indian summer where he will now go on to good things, if not better, great things. You know, he's in this golden contract tournament now into the final. I think he wins that. And then I think he then brings big time boxing back to the Norwich area.
Absolutely, I certainly hope so. But Jon, thank you for your time. Thanks for joining me today on Pro Boxing Fans.
No, thanks very much. Thanks for having me.